Hello, hello, hello. How are you doing out there, Facebook and YouTube land? It is me, Reverend Dr. Tammy Denise, 18-year breast cancer survivor and co-founder of Carrie's Touch, here bursting into your Tuesday morning with a special edition of Intimate Conversations. It's all about the break. We are here in honor and in recognition of Osteoporosis Day, which will be on Thursday. I'm here with my partners in crime, Melissa Berry of Cancer Fashionista and Ricky Fairley of Touch Black Breast Cancer Organization. We are raising awareness about the importance of bone health, fractures, secondary fractures, and what we can do about it. We've got some exciting conversation today, and we hope that you'll stick around, share, hit like, talk to your friends about it, because this conversation is very important and near and dear to my life personally. As we all know, this is also Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I am pinking out. Y'all that know me know I am not a pink fan, right? But because of these crazy mortality rates, the disparity between Black women and white women surviving this disease, I have committed to wearing pink hair all month long and wearing pink clothing. I was going to tone it down a little bit. I actually started with black, but my colleagues, they had on pink, and I was like, I will not be out pinked today. So here I am. As we know, Black women die at approximately 41% higher rates. And the problem with that is not just the disparity, it is the fact that that statistic has remained in place for more than 20 years. So enough is enough. It is time to shake things up and tear down that disparity. Also, as part of our outreach during October, we call this a time of our Celebration of Life tour. You see that pink bucket right there with flowers? When you've heard that phrase, celebration of life, you've probably been at a funeral or a memorial service, and there's tons of flowers that fill the funeral home or the sanctuary. Well, we know men and women who are living, breathing, moving, walking, talking miracles that deserve to be celebrated today. So we give them their flowers while they can smell them. Without any further ado, I want to invite my first guest in the room. And you know what? I'm going to shake it up. I was going to bring in folks one at a time, but we're going to just let everybody come in, and we're going to act like we're all in the same living room and having a conversation. So bring in Dr. Keith Crawford, who is our medical expert that is on the call. Also bring in Ricky Fairley from Touch Black Breast Cancer Organization. Bring in Melissa Berry from Cancer Fashionista. And last but not least, she's not last. Bring in our patient that is going to tell just a chilling story about her experience with her bone health, Susan Fushino. And last but not least, Caitlin Perry is going to talk about our DEXA legislation. So how y'all doing today?
Great.
Everybody good?
Great.
All right. Can we act like we're all in the same living room?
We are.
Yeah, we're so excited to be here.
I know. Hold my hand. Here's a hug.
Oh. I like it. I like it. I like it. Let's start with you, Dr. Keith. Tell us about like Bone Health 101. What is Bone Health 101? And then tell us, what is osteoporosis?
Well, what I want to thank you again for having me on your show. It's an excellent opportunity to talk about a topic that a lot of people don't really understand, and a lot of Black women don't really understand that they're at risk of osteoporosis. But when we want to talk about just the bone basics, it's the bone. First thing people have to recognize, it's a living tissue, and a lot of people don't recognize the bone is alive. Now, it's not a very complicated topic. I mean, complicated tissue. It has 3 cell types. And one cell type is called an osteoblast. And just remember, there's a cell that builds, and remember the letter B. And there's an osteoclast, which osteo means bone, and the class means to cut away or just remove. So we just remember osteoblast is for the building of your bone cell, and osteoclast is for cutting it away. And then there's another cell that's called an osteocyte, just a cell, that really plays a role in laying down the matrix. It's almost, think of it like the mortar between brick. And that's how simple it is. Now, when you do treatment, or you develop treatment, or you take things or therapies that help slow down the breakdown of bone, or the cell type that cuts bone down, and then you want to promote the building up of bone. So those are kind of your basics that you want to walk away with. And you also want to recognize that they do a lot of good. Everybody knows that your muscles are attached to your bone, right? But they're also responsible for making blood cells. They're also responsible for storing minerals. So there are a lot of little things that they do that you don't really recognize. In addition to, like I said before, supporting your musculature, framework for your muscles to attach to, and also protecting your chest, your heart, your lungs, and some of the large vessels that are in the middle of your chest. So really, and I think that kind of gives you a nice little overview of the bone, the living tissue. And the other thing too is osteoporosis is just a weakening of the bone.
Mhm. Wow, you wrap that up really, really nicely. I want to bring into the conversation Ricky and ask Ricky about your experience as a breast cancer patient with understanding the importance of your bone health.
Well, when you're sick and they give you all these scans, you have the brain scan, the PET scan, the MRI, whatever. I had no idea what a DEXA scan was.
Mhm.
And I can't even remember at what point during my treatment that I had one. But I don't think I had one until I finished treatment. I don't think I had one during treatment, but it was never explained to me. It was
Yeah.
never explained to me that my bones were at risk. It was never explained to me that chemo could affect my bones. Like, no one talked about it. And we get this cancer diagnosis and you don't know what's going on in your body, right? And so you try to listen to the doctors, but I had no idea what a DEXA scan is probably until about 5 years after I stopped treatment.
Oh,
And
stopped.
yeah, because I was getting them, but no one told me what it was. And I remember being at my surgeon's office. I went to do a checkup at my oncologist's office, and she said, "We're gonna, the DEXA scan thing is down the hall. Just go down there." And I said, "Okay, well, what is a DEXA scan?" I finally asked her the question, and she explained it to me. But I had never been told that your bones were at risk. And it's funny because on my second chemo, after you got the shot that you get, the Neupogen shot that you get after.
Neulasta? Yeah.
We didn't have, well, I guess Neulasta I had like further down the pipe, but Neulasta, similar thing where they rebuild your, I woke up in the middle of the night with this horrible bone pain.
Yeah.
And 4:00 in the morning, of course, I call my oncologist to say what's going on, because I thought my cancer had gone to my bones, right? But that was the only conversation I had about bones.
Can I ask you a question? I mean, I had this sorry for interrupting, but you know what's a shame? A shame is that you had to wait until you got cancer for somebody to talk to you about bones.
Oh, yeah.
But
No,
women are supposed to be, they're supposed to be in the moment they become 30-ish. That's when that discussion needs to begin, not until they develop the cancer or some chronic disease.
No, and I was pretty at the end of menopause when I got cancer. I was 55, and cancer stopped my menopause. Totally.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I had not heard about it. I didn't know anything about it. I obviously don't have a family history, but you know what though? My mother has had 3 knee replacements. My sister has broken multiple bones, her shoulder twice. And so something's going on in our family. And I'm just starting to have these conversations with my family because my mother's, even her knee issues, she was told it was arthritis. But I don't know. It could be. I mean, she also broke her shoulder. So we never talked about it until I brought it up. And so now I'm like trying to unpack all this with my family, looking at their records, questioning them, because I think there could be an issue that we just haven't identified in our family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
And your mom is Black, African ancestry.
yeah. She
Yeah.
had 3 knees, and she literally fell and broke her arm out of the socket a few years
Oh
ago.
my gosh.
And you see how many, even with Black women, a lot of Black women don't even know that they're at risk for osteoporosis.
Yeah.
And we're not even talking about cancer here. We're just talking about just being a Black woman who is over the age of 30.
Right.
Well, I mean, and the thing about osteoporosis that we are learning, and some of you might be saying, well, why are these these women with breast cancer talking about osteoporosis? Why is Carrie's Touch talking about osteoporosis?
Right. Why are we?
Well, because there's this correlation between the treatments, as Ricky's talking about, that we get to save our lives. And you know, how many of us are going to say no to the treatment, life-saving treatment, but there's these side effects. And I'm not fighting that there's side effects or side effects to anything. You take a Tylenol and it makes you sleepy. That's a side effect, right? But you know that there are these side effects that are in, you know, Ricky, you're finding now what the scan is 5 years later.
Oh,
Melissa,
yeah.
you had a similar story that you didn't find out about DEXA and bone health until later on in your cancer journey. That, Melissa, that was toward you.
Yeah, I didn't find out. I mean, and thank you for having us on this show. I think this is so important, especially that we're right smack in the middle of Breast Cancer Awareness Month and just a couple of days away from World Osteoporosis Day. I never heard of a DEXA scan. I'm 51 now. I was diagnosed with breast cancer at 42. And the first time I even heard the word DEXA was last year when I went to my OBGYN. She had her clipboard out and she was like, when was the last time you had a DEXA scan? And I was like, a DEXA what? And that's what brought me here. You know, now I'm not only a breast cancer advocate, but also bone health, because I had no idea if I could go back and if I could tell anyone who's tuning in, if you're around age 50 or if you're undergoing treatment for breast cancer right now, definitely ask your doctor for a DEXA, because now I know that I do have osteopenia, but I will never know, because I didn't have a DEXA scan when I first started treatment, if it was because of the treatment or if I could have done something to slow down the progression. You know, you can't go back. We can only go forward. That's why we're all sharing our stories, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's so profound that, you know, I mean, we all know we can't go backwards, but I think that there's a level of frustration in what we didn't. Those people turn on their alarm. It scares me every day.
Oh no.
I'm sorry. They scare me every day. Get it together, T. Denise. Come back.
I'm surprised my lawn people aren't here, so it's okay.
I know, that's the best when you're like filming a podcast and it's like, and you're like, I'm sorry.
Right, especially when it's live. You know, so, you know, and I would say for us, and I'm putting this in quotes, myself, Ricky, and Melissa, for us, at least we can associate and attach something to, you know, why our bone mass has deteriorated over time. We were introduced to a DEXA scan. But when I tell you, Susan, when I first heard your story, I was taken aback, because I just can't imagine your experience and what you've been through. I'm not going to even that's the only intro I'm going to give to you, because I really want you to paint the picture of you living your normal life. And then all of a sudden,
bam.
That was basically it.
Yeah.
I'm 51 now. I was 47 at the time. I was a public school teacher for 25 years. I taught like kindergarten, first grade. And that year I just wasn't feeling well. My back was hurting to the point that I physically could not stand up. I remember going to work on that Friday and I never returned because I physically couldn't move. My mom suggested, tell the doctor you want an x-ray to see what's going on. And let me start by saying also, no history of osteoporosis in my family. So I went for an x-ray. it showed 7 compression fractures, which eventually led to 11 compression fractures. It said that in the report. I had no idea what a compression fracture was. So, of course, we referred to Dr. Google. I went on and searched, and it showed a link to osteoporosis. And I thought, this is bizarre. I'm 47. How could I have osteoporosis? And it was severe. It was negative 3.4 in my lumbar. The pain was excruciating. It changed my life. It changed my family's life completely. I went from, a dance mom, my daughter was involved in dance and going to pit games and going out to eat, to laying flat on my back on the couch.
Wow.
I couldn't even get up to go to the bathroom. So I felt like I had to become my own advocate because I was getting no direction. I was aimless. I basically had a family doctor saying, you have severe osteoporosis. I don't know why you have all these broken bones. So after laying there in pain for months, I had my husband drive me to Allegheny General Hospital, which is about 2 hours away from us in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I thought, at least if I go there, I'm bound to see specialists, an orthopedic person or a spine person. So we drove out there. They confirmed that I had all these fractures. They hooked me up with, they told me to see a neurosurgeon and an endocrinologist. Thank goodness I saw an endocrinologist then, because he was able to do lots of tests on me. And it ended up, there's so many reasons why a person can get osteoporosis, and mine was a little complex. I did have a hysterectomy at age 39, and I had total hysterectomy. And I was never on any type of supplement. During this time, prior to diagnosis, I was misdiagnosed with lupus. I had a doctor who said, you have lupus, even though the numbers aren't really jiving, your symptoms are all lupus. So he gave me high doses of steroid injections.
Oh my God.
And also high doses of oral steroids, which I went on to find once I went to an expert out of the area that I did not have lupus. I do not have lupus.
Oh my God.
Wow.
And thank goodness I found the endocrinologist, because he found a third component for me, which was a parathyroid disorder. Your parathyroids are smaller glands within your thyroid that control the calcium in your body. Mine was putting too much calcium in my blood instead of in my bones. So I kind of had 3 contributing factors. I was at a loss for what to do, but thank goodness the doctor in Pittsburgh, the endocrinologist, led me in the right direction. He said, we need to pull out the big guns. That's how I referred to it for you. He had said there was a newer medication, and this was 2 years ago, called Evenity, that would rapidly build bone in my body. And he said, because of your age, and because obviously we don't want you to have more fractures, he suggested that for me. I was apprehensive. I didn't know a lot about it because it was newer. But I did go on that for a year. And currently I'm on Prolia to maintain it. But the happy news in all of this is that I had significant bone growth in my spine, 14.6%.
Wow.
Which is considered significant.
That's major.
Absolutely significant.
The problem that I still struggle with all the time is pain. The damage is done.
Right.
11 compression fractures.
Yeah.
That's not 1 or 2 compression fractures.
Right.
So I struggle with finding help with the pain, but I wish I could go back. I wish I would have had a DEXA scan earlier.
Wow.
I mean, it's such a simple test that I don't understand why doctors wouldn't suggest that at a younger age. I mean, just to get a baseline, even in your 30s, mid 30s, because that really would have helped in my situation.
Wow. Y'all, I told you that Susan, her story, I mean, and she's like pared it down. I mean,
yes,
it really reshaped your life. Your life today is not what your life was, what, 4 years ago? I'm trying to do fast math in my head. 4 years ago. If there is something that you would say to a patient, um, just based on your journey, what advice would you give them? Because you said, I wish I would have known, or I wish I could have gotten a DEXA scan. What would you say to someone out there who's having some issues that they can't seem to locate?
I think one lesson that I learned through all of this is that you can't be afraid to speak up and ask questions, and you can't be afraid to question your doctor. It's like we were brought up to go into your visit and you just sit there quietly and listen, and then you go on your merry way. But this has changed me completely. I'm probably like, doctors probably like, oh no, she's here again, because I come in with my list of questions, with all my lab results, because you have to be involved in your health journey. It's not just the doctor controlling it all. You have a big say-so in it.
Yeah, you do. And we're thankful for companies like Amgen, and we're giving Amgen a shout out. They are the sponsor of this All About the Break campaign that we are here for, in advance of World Osteoporosis Day. That is Thursday, October 20th. Tomorrow, Minnie on this call will be with Ricky Fairley on The Doctor Is In. What time is that, Ricky?
It's at 6 p.m. Eastern time.
Eastern time. And then Melissa will bring us home with her podcast we're doing an IG Live, right?
Yeah, we're doing an IG Live at 5:00 Eastern time this Friday.
And Dr. Keith, if you want to join our show tomorrow, come on.
Oh yeah, I'm happy to, because I first I want to say, Susan, you need to be commended.
Yes.
Because you're one of those warriors that are out there. And people do not fathom the level of pain that you were under. And that's what's important. And you didn't give up. But you brought up something about advocacy. But advocacy and advocates need to have education. And clinicians, even that clinician that gave you the steroids, it should have been something that was mentioned. And there's so many things that physicians, they're not gods. Physicians are your consultants.
Yeah.
So never ever feel embarrassed about telling your consultant what to do.
Yeah. I like that a lot, Dr. Keith, that our physicians are our consultants. And a problem that we know for sure with DEXA scans is that oftentimes our insurances do not cover the cost of these scans. And I want to bring Caitlin into this conversation, because Caitlin is working very closely with Carrie's Touch on a piece of DEXA legislation that is fighting for Medicare to cover our seniors who, they say most at risk, but we've got people on this call that were not in our senior ages that have all been impacted by this disease that's known as an old white woman's disease. And my thinking is that, well, we all have bones, so it's all of our diseases. And if our bones reach maximum bone mass at age 25, shouldn't we be paying attention to this before we get 65? Right?
30.
Absolutely.
30.
Exactly. So Caitlin, talk to us about our DEXA legislation.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. And I think the key denominator here, we heard from Susan, we've heard from Ricky, we've heard from Melissa, what Reverend Tammy just said, what they wish they had known, what they wish they would have done. And that is that key component with the DEXA legislation and the DEXA screening in general, is increasing access to it. Unfortunately, it's just for Medicare beneficiaries. We see this a lot in the policy realm. Starting that coverage pathway with Medicare beneficiaries, as it has been done with other screenings, with mammograms, with colonoscopies, et cetera. So policymakers are using a similar strategy now with DEXA. I think it was 2006 when Medicare cut the reimbursement for these DEXA screenings. Since that time, fractures have drastically increased in the country. And that's those secondary fractures that we really talk about as a result of either chemotherapy treatments or, like Susan, just a misdiagnosis, taking steroids where the doctor, like Dr. Crawford said, should have mentioned that an aspect of taking steroids is bone challenges, bone density issues. So this DEXA legislation, we have now dozens of co-sponsors. Unfortunately, because of bone health, because like we've heard today, nobody talks about bone health. Nobody talks about the fact that it should be a baseline. I'm 29. Do you think I can go in and ask? Because if I ask for a mammogram, if I ask for anything at my age, unfortunately, I'm told no, because there's more risk to diagnosing at my age when I don't have risk factors, when I don't have familial hereditary issues. So that's another challenge that unfortunately we're not getting to today. However, these are the barriers put in place to why people my age, to why people even undergoing cancer treatments like Melissa, like Ricky, like Dr. Reverend Denise, that aren't told that the chemotherapy medications are going to reduce bone health. And so having that baseline DEXA screening and being able to ask your doctor for it, go down the room and have the DEXA test, which takes a couple of minutes. It's not that intensive. It's not like getting an MRI. It's not like getting a CAT scan. It's not as intensive. It doesn't take as long. And having those results is so critically important, again, as we've heard today, to have that baseline, to see if it was the chemotherapy or not. Like in Susan's case, it was able to then help identify what the challenges were. And that could have been diagnosed earlier and maybe could have even prevented the unfortunate lupus misdiagnosis.
Yeah.
So all of these things combined together, you really see the importance of what is overlooked quite often as, it's overlooked. We've seen this legislation has been with Congress for I don't like saying it, but 10 years now.
Yeah.
10 years. That advocates, that hundreds of organizations support this, that they haven't been able to cross the finish line because it's quote unquote not sexy enough to do.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you feel that legislators don't appreciate women's health?
That's a loaded question, Dr. Keith. Are you?
I'm putting it out there.
You know what's happening
because it's not binary here. If we know, and you learn in medical school that this is your maximum density, and then at age 30 they decline. In a medical history, we have Susan, who's taking steroids. Why didn't you ask? And then why didn't you prepare her? And then the simple thing, Caitlin, has anybody, your primary care doctor, said, oh, we won't do a bone scan, but do you have a family history? You have a small frame. You have lactose intolerance? What about your history? Even your history would put you in a position where, okay, any weight limiting, do you exercise? Do you do aerobics? Are you lactose intolerant? Do you supplement with vitamin D? Are you taking enough calcium? Those are the basics that they need to talk to you about. Because I don't think that people appreciate bones are living. The average person thinks that they're dead.
People don't know. People do not know. Reverend Doctor, I'm using all of your titles today. Reverend Tammy, all of the titles.
You can call me Tammy. I'm cool. It's not, just call me Tammy.
That's the one title I won't. No, you're a Reverend Doctor. No. But we talk about it all the time. It's like skincare. People know you have to take care of your skin early on. Nobody talks about the fact that you have to take care of your bones early on.
Right. No one talks about
that. I do think part of it is a women's issue. I think part of it is that there's a lot of aspects of our health and everything and well-being that are not shoved away, but relatively ignored. Women, that's a larger conversation, but I do think
because that's a big one. That's so big.
I don't want to derail us too much, but I do think that's a component. And Dr. Crawford, do you have? So we know that this impacts women more so than others, and especially today we're talking about breast cancer and the interaction. So we really are focusing on women. However, what are the impacts on men in bone health in general?
Well, I mean, a lot of people don't even recognize that men develop osteoporosis.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And we're not even talking about those that have cancer or they're taking therapies that decrease testosterone levels. We're just talking about men suffering from osteoporosis. And about 10% of that total, maybe 10 million people in the
Mhm.
United States that suffer from osteoporosis are men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And everything goes back to just some basic stuff that
Yep.
that you should know. I mean, we're looking at certain diseases, medical conditions, or procedures. Now think about this. We highlighted breast cancer, and for men it's prostate cancer. But what about people that are suffering from GI disorders, gastrointestinal disorders, lactose intolerance? You're lactose intolerant, you can't absorb your calcium, you can't absorb your calcium. So you don't have enough in your body. And what that issue about taking steroids for pain. And then there's that whole issue when we talk about women is that they don't listen very well.
Watch out.
And
Watch out, doctor. Don't get in trouble. You got 5 women on this call.
I know,
man.
you're like,
I'm just saying they as the doctors.
Oh, doctors don't
What
listen.
do you think I was talking about? The
You're
doctors.
saying we are not good listeners.
Women.
No, I didn't say. See how you went
We're
there?
listening very well here.
I said they don't listen. Not women.
listen.
Doctors.
It's
Don't
on
listen to
recording. I'll
women.
send you the clip, but no.
Okay, you
Weird.
send me the clip because I didn't say
No.
women. I said they don't, and it's not women. That's not women are telling you story. You're coming in. Susan's coming in. She's having a discomfort or pain. When a woman says something, listen. That's the rule. That's the rule that you take the time. Don't bring in your bias as a clinician or as a guy.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well,
Ricky has a question really quickly. I'm sorry, doctor. Guys, I wanted because Ricky has a question and then we have a question that came in. So Ricky, go with yours.
I kind of have 2 questions. One of them is when Susan was telling her story, what was confusing to me is about you don't even know what kind of doctor to go to. I would never have even thought about going to an endocrinologist to deal with bone health. I mean, clearly you start with your GP, but to end up with the endocrinologist who's solving your problem, like, where did that come from? I thought they did diabetes. You know what I mean? So that, like, how would you even know that, right? I mean, what doctor to go to? Like, your path is so confusing.
And I feel like that, Ricky, that's your point. And I've had the honor of speaking to so many experts for my podcast. And the common theme is that the OBGYN thinks the internist is writing the script. The internist thinks that everyone thinks the other doctors. And that's why unless there's some legislation or something put in place at age X, or if you have these risk factors, you must get a DEXA, then we as patients, I feel like the onus is on us right now, right? To ask for it.
But can I ask you a question? But the primary care doctor is responsible.
You would think, but he didn't help Susan.
That's what I'm saying. The primary care doctor is the gatekeeper to your health.
Yeah,
but it's not that easy, doctor. I mean, I'm doing this, right? Mm-hmm. I had a DEXA. So unlike my colleagues here, I had a DEXA when I began my cancer journey because I was in a clinical trial.
Right.
The challenge is I didn't have a follow-up DEXA for 15 years.
Right.
So it's all, I was working with my primary care physician. And as a result, I have osteopenia. But when I talk to my primary care physician about my osteopenia, and I have a very good primary care physician, she doesn't know. She is.
But she's supposed to know. I'm
not saying what she's supposed to or not. I'm telling you the realities are from the people that are just on this call that is saying that our PCPs, our primary care physicians, our GPs, general practitioners, because a lot of people may not know what those acronyms are, but they don't know. And
that's why your show is so important. That's why what you ladies are doing today are so important, is because your consultants don't know.
Yeah.
And so it's the empowerment of the ladies now to go out and educate their consultants. This is what I heard on Dr. Ricky's what can I say?
This is
Dr.
intimate
Melissa Ricky show.
conversation. You're like the artist that doesn't know what city he's in.
But it becomes, and that's why what Caitlin from the policy is so important is everyone has to be educated. Policy leaders, policymakers have to be educated that bones are important. I mean, it hurts me to hear Susan's story, not the fact that she was laying on the couch, but she told me something else about her. She was a dance mom. She was working. She's there with her daughter, participating, and she was restricted to a couch in pain.
Mm-hmm.
That's her quality of life that was impacted.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when we started doing this project, I just started thinking about, oh my God, what would my life be like if I broke a bone? Which isn't even close to what Susan has, right? But just to break a bone, I couldn't walk my dog. I couldn't go up the stairs to in my house.
Yeah.
I couldn't, I couldn't paddleboard, which is
you couldn't paddleboard. I was waiting for you to say that one.
I just think about how my life would be restricted. And poor Susan, she's got this disease that's horrible, but it's something that we take for granted. We take our bones for granted every day. We get up and we say they're going to work. So it's to me, it's like as serious as cancer, right? I mean, it's like it's crazy.
Right, and like
your body functions.
And Ricky, to your point, like cancer, breast cancer, any cancer for that matter, is like it's a direct, immediate threat.
Right.
The osteoporosis, I for one thought, oh, that's like an old lady, grandma.
Over, right? Right.
Yeah. But Evenity is what, Susan, you took Evenity, correct?
Yes.
Now, what was so great about Evenity? Remember, I told you in the first portion that you have bones that cut down, those osteoclasts and bones that build up. Mm-hmm. This therapy approaches it in both fashions. It stops the cutting down, but it promotes the bone for building up, and that's kind of novel in this whole area of bone protection. In the past, you would say, well, over time your bones are going to thin, but we can slow it up. Now with Evenity, you have that ability to slow it up and build up. That was, to me, was
huge. Right.
That was huge.
Right. Huge.
I would jump in here really quickly. Here's a question from the chat. Says, women and children were taught in the 80s and 90s to drink cow milk for healthy bones, but many of us are lactose intolerant. Does it make a difference that we're not ingesting calcium that way anymore and now drinking oat, almond, and soy milk?
Great question.
Well, you want me to, I can answer that.
Give us your 90 seconds.
The 90 second and under 90 second is, if you are ingesting calcium from other sources, that is great. And just because you're not getting it from the cow, there are other sources of calcium. And we talked about that before, whether or not you're supplemented. I mean, women and men need to supplement with calcium daily.
Take a pill.
Yeah, daily. And then the other thing that comes into play is that we need to supplement with vitamin D. Mm-hmm. Now you add all these other additional methods.
I was going to say, tell us the importance of that, because I don't think a lot of people know that calcium and vitamin D go hand in hand.
Yep.
And just the take-home message is that's your 1-2 punch. You have to have a diet that's rich in calcium and vitamin D. And so women who are 50 and younger need to take in 1,000 milligrams of calcium a day. And women above age 50 are 1,200 milligrams a day. And at a minimum, 600 to 800 international units of vitamin D a day. They work together to build the bones. These are the components that are needed to help to have healthy bones, strong bones. Mm-hmm. And so we can get that in our diet. And there was a couple of things that are one, but some good sources. Just quickly, some good sources. I mean, tofu, soy milk, and green leafy vegetables, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, mustard greens, kale, your Chinese cabbage, bok choy, beans, tortillas, salmon, shrimp, and then your fortified juices and breads and almonds and nuts. So those are some areas, things that you can take on a daily basis. So don't just rely on the cow's milk, but make sure your diet is rich in these items. And especially, can I say this? I'm concerned about people that live in the north who don't get a lot of sun.
Son. Yeah.
Okay, so those folks, and sunlight is our natural source of vitamin D. But when you remove that and you have no sun, or you're trapped indoors for 2 years from COVID, I'm worried about the number of folks out there who are vitamin D deficient, who have weakened bones. And then the other thing that you have not heard before, and really, Caitlin, if you can pressure these policymakers to recognize that the COVID virus binds to the cell in the bone that breaks down bone.
I didn't know that.
So there's going to be an increased incidence of osteoporosis moving forward.
I did not know that.
And so I'm flagging this, and this is the ladies gotta help me with this. Long COVID,
Yep.
Yeah.
women will be impacted twice as much as men with long
Really?
COVID. And if that's the case, women will suffer from these osteoporotic lesions and problems in the future more than men, more than what they're having right now.
That's
Ending on a shining light there.
I was like, so y'all, it's so crazy because we thought that we would be in this conversation for about 45 minutes or so. And here we are at that time. And there's so many thoughts and so many questions and so much still to talk about. I want to just, as we begin to wrap up, I want to first and foremost, again, thank Amgen, our incredible sponsor, for being a leader in this space and recognizing the importance and the value of these types of conversations. I'm thanking my partners in this ministry, in this awareness and education and outreach. I'm Ricky Fairley from Touch Black Breast Cancer Organization and Melissa Berry from Cancer Fashionista. Y'all, this conversation will continue tomorrow and it'll continue on Thursday, which is World Osteoporosis Day. So I want you to tap into these conversations because it continues. And so I'm going to give everybody a chance to give a final thought. And then I want to end with Caitlin, because Caitlin, I want you to send folks to the website, to sign on to our DEXA legislation. So Doctor, you got 60 seconds, 60 seconds. Everybody else can have 2 minutes, but Doctor, you have 60 seconds.
Okay. When we think of bone health, we need to remember it impacts the quality of life.
Thank you.
When we think of bone health, we think of independence. When we think of bone health, we think of having a good diet. But I wanted to close out with one key thing. Just because your doctor doesn't talk about it, you're going to have to talk about it.
Yeah.
Your doctor's your consultant, like I said before. Now we know about bone health. This is why this show and subsequent shows are so important, because we have to spread the word to ladies throughout the globe. This is very important right before World Osteoporosis Day, because things that are said here may not be said during Osteoporosis Day. So thank you. And I just, Susan, I just want to commend you again and just acknowledge the fact that Susan did not have a cancer. And she had major bone fractures with just medical treatment.
Yeah.
And
thank you. Thank you for volleying that over to Susan, because part of what we are doing and raising this awareness is specifically around secondary bone fractures. And so, Susan, not secondary, not third dairy, not fourth dairy, not fifth dairy, not sixth. You had 11 compression fractures. What are your final thoughts
makes me have
for
pain.
those that are listening today?
2 final thoughts. First is, I learned through all of this that most people don't know they have osteoporosis until they're in pain with a break.
Right.
then it gets identified, which is what happened in my case, when it's too late.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be that way. And, when you do suffer a break, like you have all mentioned, it does change everything. Like I'm sitting on heat right now on a back cushion. I have cushions in my vehicle. I just got an adjustable bed over there. Like the modifications that take place in my life for me to live somewhat normal life have been a lot. But I'm thankful for the support of my friends and family too. They all know they carry a cushion around when they're with me, or a back cushion, or my brace. So,
Yeah.
And you built a pool in your backyard.
which is currently closed because it's 30 degrees out in Pennsylvania.
It's 30 degrees already. Oh my gosh.
We're getting snow tonight.
Oh my God.
Not a lot, but that's all they've been talking about. So, anyways,
Oh my God.
the pool is major relief for back pain. So we literally took a loan out and put a huge in-ground pool in, and I love it.
Oh wow. So now you have to get it enclosed so it can be heated.
You need an indoor pool too.
And then you have to invite us over so we can have another.
Yes. You invite us.
Our next meeting will be it'll be the Susan pool party celebration.
Oh yeah, we like it. We like it. We'll take it.
We can heat it up like a hot tub, right?
Mhm.
Ricky, since your show's tomorrow, plug your show and then give us your final thoughts.
Yeah, so our show's tomorrow. The Doctor is in. It's live on Facebook on the blackdoctor.org Facebook page at 6 p.m. Eastern. And we'll have, a lot of these lovely people on. But I just wanted to bring up some stuff for Black women.
Yeah.
35% of Black women are estimated to have low bone mass, which could lead to osteoporosis. 75% of Black people are lactose intolerant, so they're not getting calcium, right? And I could go on and we'll talk about more of this tomorrow. But you said it earlier, we have to be the CEO of our own health. Mm-hmm. Doctors are consultants, and there's so many things we have to advocate for and we're not being educated about. And I know in the Black community, our level of health illiteracy is driving health inequities. Yeah. So the more we can do these forums and educate people, the more we have to keep doing them and keep talking, because we have to take control of our health, and we have to act on, demand the care that we need. We need to demand the care that's the golden rule, that, we'll only have health equity if everybody treats others as they want to be treated. Yeah. And so we have to demand that level of care from doctors and say, if this were your mom or your auntie or your wife, how would you treat them?
That's exactly right.
Right. So we'll talk more tomorrow, but thanks for this. Thanks for this forum. And thank you, Amgen. We love you so much for giving us an opportunity to do this important work.
Yeah. Thank you, Ricky. Very, very, very well said. Melissa, the fashionista, what are your final thoughts?
Well, thank you so much for having us on Intimate Conversations. Every time I am in a group setting like this, I learn so much. So thank you all for everything that you bring to the table. And Susan, especially you for your stepping forward. I know this is new for you to be sharing your story. So we're so grateful and honored. I'm just here to say, we're not here to scare you, you guys. We're all busy. We have our to-do lists, right? And I mean, even before breast cancer, like my mom, have you seen your primary? I'm like, oh God, I know it's annoying, but make your appointment. See your primary, just start there. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. And ask for a DEXA scan, because talk about inconvenient. If you fracture a hip or break a bone, I mean, that's inconvenient. I mean, beyond. So get ahead of the curve is all we're saying. Learn from us and just be an advocate for your health. And like Dr. Crawford said so beautifully, your doctors are your consultants. Lean on them. Say, hey, doc, I'd like a DEXA.
Right. Beautiful.
And start that discussion at 30.
Yeah. We'll try. At 10:30 next year, we'll see if they let me.
Right.
And just like Dr. Crawford and everyone said that doctors and our primary care providers are our consultants, policymakers are our consultants. We elect them. We must hold them accountable.
Right.
So that's legislation and the links I've posted underneath, and I believe they'll post it online after this too. Josh, you're incredible. Those links let any individual contact their specific member, either on the House or the Senate side, and urge for either their co-sponsorship or their support of this DEXA legislation. We have to improve the Medicare reimbursement so that more doctors provide access to this testing, so that they actually get reimbursed at what it costs to provide this test to individuals and to Medicare beneficiaries. So just as we have to advocate for ourselves in the healthcare, unfortunately, we also have to advocate for ourselves in the policy realm as well. And I think at the common denominator here is we have to advocate for ourselves. So we have to go to the primary care physician. I have to go to the ophthalmologist for an eye issue I've had for a year, but it's inconvenient for me to go. We have to do these things in order to have the best health outcomes we hope we can have in the quality of life, so we don't unfortunately run into issues later on.
I'm happy to help with that legislation thing. Just let me know what you need me to do. And
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
And early detection screening prevents breaks.
Yeah.
Wow, this has been an incredible special edition of Intimate Conversations. It's all about the break in advance and in recognition of World Osteoporosis Day, which is Thursday, October 20th. This conversation will continue tomorrow, as you've heard, and on Thursday with this group of passionate advocates. We are the ones that are on the other side of this whole situation, and we are trying to provide you information so you can be proactive instead of reactive, because once it's done, there's no reversing it. I mean, we're excited that Susan, you have had the success that you have had with gaining 14% of your bone back, but that's not everybody's story, and it won't be everybody's situation. So we have got to protect what we have now, and we've got to talk about this, because one break is serious, but when you get multiple breaks, with each break, your quality of life diminishes exponentially. So if nothing else, my takeaway from today is educate yourself, talk to your doctors, and contact your legislators, because they are our consultants and we are in the driver's seat. We will see you next time. Take care and get healthy with those bones. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.